Hey folks, Corey here with Piston Stone Wargaming. Today I've got an unboxing video for you of the all-new Space Marines Gladiator tank. I've been really excited for this tank to come out. I had to wait a little bit extra time because of COVID shipping delays, but it came in, Christmas is over, and I'm gonna take a look inside the box now. A couple of thoughts before I get started. I've been a big tank fan for a long time. I counted things up before I started this video, and I've purchased over the course of my modeling hobby time since the late 90s a total of 29 Games Workshop tanks, of which 14 were of the ubiquitous Rhino standard template chassis. That's 7 of the Mark I and 7 of the Mark II. This tank now looks like it's the first in a new Impulsor chassis line, and hopefully they'll do the same thing with the Impulsor and go into some other variants of tanks based off of that chassis. I'm really looking forward to see what they can do with it, and I'm really looking forward to this tank as well. So that's enough of me rambling on. Let's start to take a look at this box. Starting out, we got some classic artwork on the front, and the back is just a lot more in terms of artwork, and well, it shows you the 3 different variants, the Valiant, the Lancer, and the Reaper variants that you can build with this kit. So let's have a look inside now, shall we? I actually haven't opened this up. I've had it for almost 2 weeks now, and I haven't even opened the box yet. We'll start off with the instruction sheet here. It looks like we're going to have 4 sprues in here. This is probably going to start out with a standard Impulsor build. And then the variants down here for the various Gladiator tank builds. And then, of course, some basic data sheets on the back. So, fun stuff, the sprues. So this looks like all the new turret weaponry for the 3 options. So that's pretty cool. Those are all in one sprue here. And here we have the Gladiator turret. So there's the turret there and the mounting that will go over the back of the hull. Various options for different, it's like the multi-melta Sponson option and Gatling cannons. I meant to take a look and see if these are going to be quasi press fit, or yeah, it looks like there's some nubs and some receptacles on some of these. So we'll see how that stuff goes together. Your regular mounting pin for these hover tank. And this looks like a standard Impulsor sprue. It's the anti-grav plates and the Impulsor top, some of the Impulsor options. So you have all of the Impulsor options on here. So that's just like the Rhino in that regard. You know, the Rhino chassis-based tanks would give you a full Rhino kit and then give you the additional sprues as add-ons to that kit. So these look like these 2 sprues here, the one that's still in the box. This is the rest of the hull. These are the standard Impulsor sprues. So yeah, having just built an Impulsor not too long ago, that's exactly what those are. So that's what you get. You get the 2 Impulsor sprues, which is a full Impulsor kit. That's pretty cool. So you could actually build this as an Impulsor if you want, if you get into some interesting options as far as varying your builds, magnetization or press fit or whatever, push fit. So you could build this as an Impulsor and then all 3 variants of the Gladiator, because it has the full Impulsor kit. And of course the base and an Ultramarines transfer sheet, which won't be of any use to me playing Imperial Fist. So I'll put those back in the box. I'm actually going to put these back in the box too, and we'll take one last look here now at the Gladiator sprues, which are these 2 sprues. So I'll be very interested to see how these go together. and how easily it's going to be to make these swappable between the 3 variants for each of the tanks. I'm not a big fan of building out the Impulsor and the Gladiator build, but I am a fan of having the Gladiator tanks be able to swap between variants. I do that with my Predators. My Predators are magnetized. I can run them in any variant I want with any side sponsons. So I want to do something similar here with the Gladiator because that's the tank they're essentially going to replace. So rather than boring you with building the whole Impulsor, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to build the Impulsor chassis, the base, and then come back in and show some options here of how I think we can build this to be any variant you want to be, and really show the difference between the Impulsor kit and then how the Gladiator kit fits onto that. So we'll be back in a minute. All right, I got the Gladiator built now to a point where I can talk about some of the options and some of the different ways I might want to put this together. It looks like the main armament is going to be relatively easy, but the Sponson armament will be a little bit more difficult. So starting off first here, here's the Impulsor chassis. I've already glued on the Gladiator sight here, which is a little bit different than both hatches you see in the Impulsor build there. Also, I haven't glued on the mounting plate for the Gladiator yet, just to show that if you really wanted to, you could leave it open as an Impulsor and then mount the Gladiator turret later or swap them out. As I said earlier, I'm not really interested in that. So with the Impulsor here that I did before, I put the small hatch piece on so I could put the turret options on there. But other than that, that's pretty much a stock Impulsor. So I'm going to eventually just glue this stuff right on. But as you can see, it just kind of slides right over the top there. And then this is the back piece, which should go right in the back. And then you've got your Gladiator. So with the turret here, here's where we get into the rest of the options, the other thoughts. When we're talking about the main armament. So I left the bottom plate unsecured for now, because I think that that's going to be the best way for me to change the main armament out. It's got a couple little round spots on the bottom plate where you can mount, or where you slide the rest of the guns. And then on the interior of the top of the turret, it's got a notch, and then the round as well for the guns. So if I just grab one of these options here, like the Onslaught Gatling cannons, I'll go in just like that. And I can take this and just press it into place. And it holds pretty securely. And then slide it in there. And there we go. So I don't see any issue with doing that going forward permanently. Things will tighten up a little bit. You put a little paint on it. So that will sit just fine. If you want to magnetize, what you probably want to do is cut off the ends here of each of these mounting guns. They all have the same ends. And slide the magnets maybe inside here. You can see, I don't know if you can see the seam of how these are put together. These weapons are in halves. Put magnets there and on the inside, and should be able to hold right in place and be able to slide in and out from the front. But I think this is going to work for me. This will be pretty straightforward. This will hold nice and securely. All right, moving on though to the turret weaponry is a little bit different. So the original Impulsor chassis just comes with these smaller Stormbolter or the Fragstorm grenade launcher type turrets. They're not that hard to build and put together or swap out. Or, they rotate, they pop right out like that. So pretty straightforward. But with the new Gladiator, the newer sponsons are larger, and they don't line up. The holes don't line up. So you see here, I left these apart. So here's a Stormbolter, and it snaps right in. Got a couple of pegs there, nice and easy, and holds in place. But this larger mounting bracket doesn't line up the holes with the Stormbolter, and vice versa. So that's a little bit tricky. Could always just cut the pegs off and use magnets and maybe some tin or some thin metal if you want to, if you're into doing it that way. One of the options I thought about was doing something similar with the turrets, was to be able to, what they only give you one of is these pieces right here. And these are the pieces that allow the sponsons to pivot. So slide that in there, and that's what the sponson pivots back and forth on. Put the cover on. Now that looks just like this. Okay. So I was thinking maybe I could do something similar here and let these come off and swap them into the other one. So only the Storm Bolter uses the smaller one, but both the Multi-Melter and the Tempest Bolter use the bigger one. That may work, but the tricky part is depends on how snug this is, because that piece, that ring, well, I guess it actually sits in there, sits on the top, but you know, you'll be able to pull this right out like that. So, but it's, you know, snug enough right now in this particular one that works. And then with the larger guns here for the Multi-Melter and the Tempest Bolter, this little peg and slot are nice and snug too. Again, it will snug up a little bit more with some paint on it. So I can just pop those on and off. So I think I'm going to try to give this a go without doing any magnetization and see how that kind of works out for the sponsons. I'll have to let you know once I get it all painted up and figured out, but that's a look at it. So there you have it, as a look at the Gladiator, brand new, trying to make all three variants with just one kit. Have your money go a little bit longer way and gives you a few more options to be able to play with. That means you can do, you know, the Lancer variant with the Lancer Destroyer, Lancer Laser Destroyer, the twin lace talons of the Valiant variant, which go, of course, with the Multi-Melters, and then the, I forget what this variant is called, but it's got the heavy onslaught Gatling cannons and the Tempest Bolters. It's the Reaper variant, that's what it is. So there you have it. Gladiator tank. That'll be my first one. I probably will end up with one or two more throughout the course of my hobby time. Thanks for watching. We'll catch you in the next video.